everybody. Welcome to That Goninan Life. Today we have kind of a different thing. We're gonna talk about, instead of show, we went and had the opportunity to go to Warner Brothers Studios to do a tour. But they basically tell you not to film at all. So we were like, you know what? Let's just take a lot of pictures and we'll show everybody pictures of what we did on.
Yeah, because it's really awesome, so we want to tell you about it, but we couldn't film, so we'll just talk about it.
Yeah, so why don't you tell them exactly like the money details of what it is and why we went, maybe.
Okay, so it was Eric's birthday on Friday, and so we were looking to do something a little bit different for his birthday, and this is something that he's been wanting to do for a while now, and so we figured, hey, let's go do it. So we went for his birthday. They were actually running a Southern California residence deal for our tickets, which was awesome. So it is originally $69, but we were able to get it for, I think it was $54 a person. And there are a couple different tours. There's like a VIP tour, I believe it's called, and they have like a classics movie tour, and then they also have what we went, which was the like regular tour, the standard tour that we did. And this tour, they say that it is 3 hours long. They say it is a 2-hour guided tour and then a 1-hour like self-guided tour. Yeah, and so Warner Brothers Studios is in Burbank, so if you are lucky, I would say it is about an hour away from Disneyland. But
if you're not lucky like us, it'll take you an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Yeah, traffic can be pretty brutal getting there, but it was a really good experience. And then yeah, so they have lots of different time openings, so you just pick your time. They run it on the hour and the half an hour. Is there anything else I should let them know about, like the background details?
Warner Brothers Studios located directly between Universal Studios and the Disney like,
yeah, you get to drive by the Disney Studios.
Yeah, so we drive. I mean, you drive right past the animation building to get into the exit that you need to take.
You see the hat, the little top part of the hat, which is fun.
Yeah, yeah.
One day we want to do the Disney.
Yeah, we want to do that.
In case you can't tell.
But it was super fun. So first things first. So throughout this, I'm going to be throwing up pictures just so you can kind of see what we're talking about. First things first, though, is Amy, that night before, I decorated the house in one of my favorite decorations of all time. She copied The Office when Dwight and Jim throw a birthday party for Kelly, and it's terrible decorations. That's what she did, and it was hilarious to me, so I love them.
Good.
So we drove out there. It took us about an hour and a half. It was rainy, which we were not expecting. We saw in the forecast it was supposed to rain, but we assumed, oh, it's just here and not in LA because it can be different weather up there. No, it rained. So we were very unprepared. But it was...
Which is our theme, of being unprepared for rain.
Yeah. So the parking structure was super easy to find, which I appreciated. You just drive in. There's signs for studio parking, or studio tour parking. So you just go into the garage. It's $15. The machine was down, so we paid $0. Thank you.
Yeah, they were so nice because we didn't have cash on us, so they just waved us through.
They're like, we'll take care of you today.
Yeah.
So that was cool. And so then you just kind of go up, and then you're kind of right in the tour area. You have to kind of go out and go like this around a corner, but
yeah, one thing that I was really surprised about was, like, I kind of expected this to be like a smaller affair, but I think this is a very popular thing because there were signs everywhere. It just seemed like a big event. It's not like something small. Like, they do a good job with organizing it, and it's very professional, is what I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. So you walk kind of through, I mean, we didn't because we went around the corner because it was rainy, but if it wasn't raining, we would have gone around. We did at the end, but there's 2 huge statues of Daffy Duck and Bugs Bunny, which were pretty cool. And then, so you walk into the tour, you check in, and I was like surprised. I was like, wow, there's a lot of people here already for the tour. And so they kind of, sorry.
Our tour was at 9.
9. It was like the first of the day, I believe.
I think there was maybe one other one before us, but still, I was surprised at how popular it was.
Yeah, and so basically they open these doors like a theater, you go in, and you're given, when you check in, you're kind of given a card to to kind of separate you with your groups or whatever. So we walked in and they were speaking, the guy was speaking some French, and I was like, what is happening? And I just thought he was making jokes. So we watched a quick introduction video about Warner Brothers Studios. Ellen was there and she kind of showed, like, explained what's going to happen on the tour, what to expect. And so, but then after the lights came back on, all the tour guides came in and a bunch, they started speaking in French, and it was like, what's happening? So there were 3 French groups that went before us, which I thought was super interesting.
Yeah, I feel like this studios is really like, they're catering towards everybody, but possibly like especially international groups, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, people love movies, but like, yeah, it was super interesting. So apparently you can set up your own private tour group and go with a bunch of your friends if you wanted to. We figured out, I think it was 14 people per
tour guide.
Per tour.
I think so, around that.
Yeah, per tour guide, yeah. So it was cool. So we, got to go in and they called our name or whatever, and we walked out into the rain to a thing. And so we sat in the front with the driver, and it was funny, like as soon as we pulled out and she took a right, all the water from the top went right down my back of my shirt, and I was like, oh.
Because we were in like big golf carts.
Yeah, you're in a big golf cart tour thing. There's a picture. So it was cool. So essentially, what happens is you just, if you're familiar with the Universal Studios tour, it's kind of same but different. There's like more attractions on that versus you do get to see some stuff that they film, but this is strictly just film. They don't like trick you or anything. So they take you around on this little golf cart and they kind of explain, you drive through the streets that they film in. They're like New York and Chicago are the 2 main cities that they try to make it look like. I thought it was super interesting just to see all the huge buildings that are just facades that they put a lot of time and detail into, that you're like, oh, that's, she was explaining something about how the fire escapes are all real from New York, that somebody found them and bought them and brought them over and they hung them all up, so they look legit.
Because they are. Yeah.
So I mean, it was just cool, her driving around pointing out like, oh, that's where this was filmed, or that's where this was filmed, or this music video, or this TV show, this movie. Like,
yeah,
they don't do as many movies anymore there. They do in the sound stages, but on the streets and stuff, they mostly film TV shows these days. So that was pretty cool. So driving around, and then they took us to. Well, at first, unfortunately, she was going to show us the Gilmore Girls area.
I love Gilmore Girls.
But she's like, oh, it's closed right now. They just repaved it, blah, 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 blah. And so we were kind of like, oh, that's a bummer. Yeah. So they pulled us into our first, like, stop of the day. And they took us into kind of like a walkthrough display thing. And it was Aquaman and Wonder Woman. They had different props and stuff. We haven't seen Aquaman.
And costumes.
Yeah, we haven't seen Aquaman, so I don't understand any of this stuff, but they did say that the outfit for Aquaman weighed 80 pounds.
That's crazy.
Which is crazy. So it's a buff dude walking around with 80 pounds of extra weight on him, doing all those crazy things. So.
Or it's like if he was overweight by 80 pounds.
Yeah, I guess that's true. He'll instantly lose 80 pounds. So
one day we will feel like that.
Yeah, that's true. So we walked through that. It was cool. At that point, it's like all the tour groups are starting to merge, so it's starting to get a little bit busy. But they kind of just try to keep track of slowly going through so that everybody can kind of get time with looking at everything. So the Wonder Woman stuff was cool to take pictures of. I took a bunch of pictures of that stuff. And then upstairs, what they did was they had all the Harry Potter stuff, which was cool. So props from the movies, actually a ton of props from the movie. A bunch of the fireplace stuff, like all the envelopes and
the map
and some wands and stuff like that. So it was cool to see that stuff. I mean, they had a bunch of the like Snape's outfit and Dumbledore's outfit and stuff like that. So that was fun. I mean, that was cool to see because you're like, oh, that was actually in the movie. Pretty cool. And now I know from other tours and stuff that you see stuff like that, but I feel like this was just kind of overwhelming because there was so much to look at. And they kind of ushered us through that part really fast. I felt like. But that was just because of timing constraints probably. Like we stayed a lot longer downstairs, but I think it's because there's another group in front of us that was taking their time.
I feel like they were really trying to keep the groups separate so we didn't feel overwhelmed, but it's hard to do, obviously.
Yeah.
No.
So it was funny, so they walked us through the Harry Potter stuff, and then it was like the Fantastic Beasts section, which nobody took any pictures pictures of. I felt bad for...
Well, we still haven't seen.
I haven't seen those movies yet, so... I don't know if a lot of people in our tour group had yet. Because those 2 girls that were like super Harry Potter fans were taking tons of pictures inside, and then we went to Fantastic Beasts, and they're just like, oh, look at this stuff. So so after that, they took us back onto the cart, and they drove us around a little bit more. And then that's when she took us into the Gilmore Girls area.
Because it just got back open. That's what she said.
Yeah, so they had just reopened it, so you want to tell them about that?
Yeah, so it was really, really awesome. We got to see like the gazebo. We saw Luke's coffee shop. Luke's coffee shop, the structure looked the same, but it didn't have any of the signage or the colors or anything like that, because it's crazy how much they redo all the things to make it look like different things, so they don't have to keep on like rebuilding different things or whatever. But they had the gazebo, the Stars Hollow gazebo, and like we got to go, and I like got to go walk up the gazebo and take a picture and stuff like that, so it was awesome.
Yeah, and apparently they used the same exact area to film Pretty Little Liars, if you've seen that show. It's the same neighborhood.
Pretty Little Liars and Gilmore Girls, they were overlapping, like, because they showed us a lot of different things, and they were like, this is for Pretty Little Liars and Gilmore Girls. So.
Yeah. It's like a little Connecticut town, basically, is what it made it look like. So, yeah, so it was cool to see that, and then it was interesting to see, like, oh, this looks like a little neighborhood, and then you go around the corner, it's just a wall.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Crazy. So, so they drove us through there, and then, where did we go? Oh, and then...
Was it the Central Park?
Oh, yeah. So then they drove us past the Central Park, is what they call it for filming, where they filmed some stuff from Friends. And it's just a walkway that make it look like Central Park. I was like, how do they even do that? Because it's the tiniest little section of grass.
You know, like the part where like Phoebe's running like crazy.
Yeah, she's running funny. It's like...
It's so funny how small it is.
Yeah, it's just a tiny patch. It's like a small patch of backyard grass that they turned into Central Park. So, super interesting. So they kept driving, and then they went on a corner, and we went through the rows and rows of their studios, which was cool. And so we drove past Studio 30, which is where Friends was filmed, and they have a plaque on the wall. And then she explained some other stuff. Fun fact, some scenes from Captain Marvel were filmed in the Friends studio, which is pretty cool.
And Frozen. The sound for Frozen, right? They said the sound mixing.
Yeah, Warner Brothers has a big sound. They have like a good sound mixing area, I guess. And so they do The Walking Dead on a regular basis, but then Frozen,
most important,
Frozen. They did some sound mixing for Frozen, which was cool. So it's interesting to hear stories from shout out to Savannah, our tour guide.
Yeah, she was amazing.
She had a lot of good stories about how, you know, Disney or Universal or whoever, they all use kind of each other's studios to film stuff. So
yeah, it's really interesting because there's definitely like a rivalry. Like I'm sure Eric will tell about the water tower. Like there's a rivalry between studios, but they also do like work together for it.
Yeah.
So tell about the water tower thing.
Yeah. So their big famous landmark at Warner Brothers is their water tower. I feel like that's most studios is their water towers. So it obviously has the Warner Brothers symbol. Apparently the Animaniacs live there. I remember that from the kids show. So Jack Warner, who I think was one of the brothers that started Warner Brothers, he decided to face the tower towards his competitors versus out towards the people because he felt like that was a much more bigger like. Yes. We're here now, kind of.
So like one's facing Disney, and I think the other one one facing Universal.
Yeah, so it's facing both of their.
And he wanted it. Wasn't it the biggest that he wanted it?
I think at the time it was the biggest.
Yeah.
So, pretty cool.
Funny.
Yeah, it was funny. So after doing that and then driving through the studio areas, she pointed out where Ellen filmed and all these other places, Big Bang Theory. I actually got to see into the Big Bang Theory studio because it's. Like they're done filming and so they're taking everything out, but it was kind of cool to peek in and you could actually see as we drive by like some stuff on the walls that they had up still, which was cool. And so that's when they took us over to one of the studios and we walked on some sets of stuff. So no, the TV show's Lethal Weapon, which I don't watch. I know it recently was canceled. So, but it was cool because you walk into this big warehouse and there's like wooden slats everywhere of like walls on, you know, the back end of walls, if you ever know what the wall without any, you know, anyways. So you walk in and you're like, oh, and then you walk through these like small openings and then all of a sudden you're like transported into it was a police station. And I was like, whoa, like the details in there just walking around was incredible. Like there was tile on the ground, there was like the lights weren't really on in there, just a couple lights on, so it was kind of darker, but you could see like all the desks have stuff all over them, and like I even noticed there was like a mug with a pen in it, and I was like, this is like crazy detailed than what they do. So they walked us through that and then into the morgue / hospital, because it's a 2-scene thing where one side's the morgue, the next side's like the hospital admission place. And so it showed us the morgue and like the bodies come out and that kind of stuff. So that was super interesting.
Yeah, it's really crazy because basically like a lot of the studio, what do they call it? The lots? The stages?
Studios.
Okay, well the studios, like you go inside of them and basically when you first walk in, it's like my dad's garage but like huge, you know, like there's stuff everywhere and it's like it looks
like a tripping hazard.
Yeah, it looks disorganized and crazy, but then like you go into the precinct and you're like, oh, this is a real precinct. Like it's interesting.
Yeah, and it's cool to see like, okay, well then when they're shooting the thing, it's obvious that they did such a good job with their set.
Yeah.
So as we're leaving, we walked through a shady motel, which I thought was interesting. As soon as we walked in, I was like, this place was super dirty looking. And so they did a good job of making it and probably looking authentically awful for wherever it is. So, but that was cool. And then after that, that's when they take you over to the self-guided portion. And so that part was really fun too, because you walk in and it's just, oh, I forgot something. Probably the most important.
I was about to say something.
Before they took us over there, they took us to where all the Batmobiles are. All of them.
It was so cool.
Yeah, so we saw Michael Keaton's Batmobile. We saw the Christian Bale Batmobile, which there's only one in the whole world. And then we saw everything else is a replica that they made, but that's the working Batmobile. They can drive it down the street. We saw a Batpod. This is the thing that like shoots out of the Batmobile. Then we saw there was a Batwing from I think Batman and Robin, and then Batman's car from Batman Returns, and then a couple of the bikes from the original TV series. So there was like a ton to look at.
And we got to turn the bat signal.
Yeah, you could turn the bat signal on and off, which was cool. The highlight for me was seeing the original Batmobile from My Batman, which was the 89 Batman Michael Keaton version, and so like I watched that 1,000 times when I was a kid. So that Batmobile was cool. It's a lot smaller in person. It looks huge on the screen, but I mean it's a long car, but like
it's still a big car.
It's a big car, but when you're like comparing it to the Tumbler, you're like the Tumbler is like a monster compared to that
thing.
What's
the Tumbler?
That's the Batman Begins, Christian Bale Batman.
Oh.
Christopher Nolan stuff. So it was awesome. So it was fun to see all that stuff. And then they took us into the self-guided tour, and there was a ton to look at in there. The highlight was...
Can I say one more thing about the Batman thing, which was interesting? So by the way, when we're going through all these things, like this Savannah, our tour guide, is giving us tons of stories, but I want to tell one story about the Batmobile. So the Batmobile, you know how it's designed to have like the opening from the top? So they had to do that because they were designing the car, and they designed it, and then all of a sudden they were like, oh wait, we don't have any doors.
Yeah.
Like they didn't have any doors, so like that's why they had that sliding thing.
Yeah, the guy who was designing it realized, oh, how are we supposed to get Batman in?
Yeah.
And so what they did is they then created the opening, which is now iconic. Of and him jumping in and stuff, and so that was pretty funny.
Or felt like there's so many amazing stories. It was cool.
Yeah, it's worth your time just to hear all that stuff, you know. So the self-guided tour was cool. You kind of walk through and see props, different props from different movies. The coolest thing was the Friends set. So they have a working coffee shop called Central Perk. Now it doesn't quite look like the set.
Not at all.
The colors and stuff, yeah. But it's just a coffee shop, and you can get a bagel or a donut or something there. And it's right next to their studio store, which is the exit, of course. So you walk through the self-guided tour, and there's props everywhere. You stand in line to get, I think it took about 5 minutes to get through the line to get a picture with the Friends set. which was cool because it's the Friends set. Like,
it was
it's
the one
Central
they
Perk.
used.
They used it in the TV show. They saved it and moved it over there for people to get pictures with. So that was really, really cool.
And they were awesome about, like, they were fine with using our phone to take pictures because obviously they sell pictures as well, but they weren't weird about using our cell phone to take pictures, which I appreciated.
Yeah, so it was really cool. And so so after that, you kind of walk through, and there's some more, like, some costumes from, like, My Fair Lady and Casablanca and all these other things. If you've ever been on the Hollywood Studios, what was the name of the
I never got to see that.
You never saw that one?
The backstage.
No. The movies.
Great Movie Ride?
The Great Movie Ride.
Oh, okay, yeah, I saw that.
A bad fan. Yeah, so if you've ever been on that, then it's kind of similar stuff where it's like the Casablanca, like there's a couple outfits from the movie and that kind of stuff. So it was, I mean, that was cool. And then as you move through, there's just a lot more costumes and things to look at. Then you kind of come around a corner and there's a whole section for interactive experiences. So one is like you can ride a broomstick from Harry Potter, and it's a green screen, and like they film it and you can buy it. Same with the bat cycle, you can do that. What was one of the other ones? I forget the other one that you could do.
We didn't do any of those.
Yeah, we didn't, because I just walked past.
Yeah.
But it was cool to see other people doing that.
If I was a kid, I would love it.
Yeah. So so that was cool. And then towards the end of the tour, there was a room that was just filled with all sorts of memorabilia, and it just kind of was a random assortment of things. And the one of the coolest things we saw was Walt Disney's phone number in Jack Warner's personal phone book.
Yeah.
Which was really cool to see. We took a picture of it because it was like, what? Walt Disney?
Well, it makes sense though, right? Like they
yeah, I mean, they would probably know each other and be friends, so. But,
or at least they were colleagues, basically.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
So yeah, so that was the tour. You know, we walked through, and then at the end, we when we checked in, they gave us coupons for the gift shop. So it was like a $15 off.
Of course we had to use it.
Of course we had to use it. So let's show what we got. First of all, obviously this hat. It's a Central Perk. I don't know if you can. I'm so bad at the focus thing. So it says Central Perk. Pretty cool. And then they're all over there.
Oh.
So we got a Central Perk mug from the, you know, whatever. And then
I got a Luke Steiner coffee cup mug. Even though we don't use mugs, like we don't
just
drink
like
hot...
having them in the background and stuff. I guess.
Yeah, we don't have hot beverages, really.
And then I got a pen, because you always need a pen in life. It says Friends on it, so that's cool. And then some Central Perk mints, because why not? They were $4, so
expensive.
You can see that. Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, so it was cool. So it's just a really fun experience. We really highly recommend it.
Yeah.
There's 2 more studios that we want to do. There's Sony and Paramount that we'll
and
tour.
if we could get into Disney, we'll have to figure that one out.
Yeah, that one's going to be a little bit tougher because you can't just pay $50 and go to that one. So, but yeah, so I would recommend 10 out of 10. Go check it out if you have the opportunity. The stories are worth it, and it's just super fun.
It really is.
So. Alright, well, thanks for checking out our video today and hanging out with us. If you like these videos, why don't you guys subscribe if you're not subscribed, and give us a thumbs up. And if you've been to the Warner Brothers studio, let us know in the comments. If you haven't, you know, let us, if you have any questions, we'll answer them.
Yeah, if you have any questions or a specific story you want to hear.
Yeah, it was super fun and worth your time, and I really enjoyed it. And I definitely want to go back at some point.
Yeah.
It would be fun to hear.
Maybe after like a really big Warner Brothers movie we want to see.
Yeah, that would be fun. So.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks.
Bye.